So everybody out there, we couldn't make it to Japan because we had visa problems. So we're really happy that Mr. Inoue, the monster, could make it here. So John Rio got a chance to look at him eye to eye, and he feels like now after looking at him, he's the real monster. So April 25th, going on some monster hunting. We want to thank you again, champ, for coming, for bringing the belts, and for taking this challenge with Casimiro. Best two bantamweights in the world at 118 pounds. Fighting in the prime of their careers, April 25th, Mandalay Bay. Make sure you watch it.
Yeah. So this was posted by Michael Montero yesterday. Saw it yesterday. I didn't keep it aside. I didn't retweet it, but it's popped up again in my stream, so I'm going to address it. And what I've noticed, the reason I was actually going to ignore it, but something else came up, and it made me want to focus on the topic of Naoya Inoue. Michael Montero posts the following. Says, do you agree or disagree with our new pound for pound rating? Now we'll go into that in a minute. Boxing, boxeo, blah blah blah, all the hashtags. But I find it strange that he's talking about pound for pound, and he's got hashtag Loma Lopez. That's just one fight. I don't think the basis of a pound for pound needs to rely solely upon the outcome of that one fight, but that's what you get with these people who are supposedly objective and work for a very well-established cornerstone, dare I say, magazine in Ring Magazine. Because I say that because this is the Ring Magazine's pound for pound, and he says, do you agree with our? So that means he had input. He had input. I would believe, I'm inclined to believe that he had input on this. Now, I don't trust Michael Montero's judgment whatsoever. I think he's a white nationalist right-winger. I think he is a white nationalist right-winger, and he's very fond of calling black people bigoted demographic, as if to project the that ugliness that they have within themselves onto other people in order to justify the way they act. He, alongside two other people who are people of color, but for some reason tend to resent people darker than them, Douglas Fisher and Steve Kim, engage in this nonsense. You know what I'm saying? But once you have those type of people around you, you can always say that you're not racist. It's the black people themselves, the darker people, who are racist. But let's not indulge too much in that, because you could always say that I'm jumping to conclusions and I have no evidence, blah blah blah. My evidence is my experience. Take it or leave it. That being said, we are going to make this conversation about Naoya Inoue, okay, and how they use fighters like Naoya Inoue and then toss them away, chew them up and toss them away. And I can see what's happening here. But first of all, let me go find what's the tweet that led me to actually make this video. Let me go find that one. He writes here, so because you're sold means I have to be. I acknowledge he's a beast, but my 10 I'm happy with. Now this is in response to the conversation started. Let me go to how the conversation started. Conversations about boxing nowadays. I think he's a big boxing fan, like LL Cool J. It says, my pound for pound list: Bud Crawford, Canelo, Spence, Usyk, Fury, Teofimo, Loma, Charlo, Triple G, and Tank. All right, that's his 10, I believe. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so somebody asked a question following that. Tank over Inoue. Tank. They burst out laughing, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. I can understand that, all right, but let's go back a minute. That's why I believe that there's always some nefarious intention behind the people who tend to push people like Naoya Inoue up there. Now, I started paying attention when I saw this guy here. Now, Caleb Truax gets involved, and he says, "Ain't sold." Here's the thing. He says, "Ain't sold." He's been smashing top-notch fighters for the last few years. The monster is a problem. Now, that's a lie. The monster is certainly a problem. He certainly is promising. Certainly has a lot of potential. But anybody who writes that he's been smashing top-notch fighters, okay, and we'll get into that in a second, okay, who says he's been smashing top-notch fighters is lying. is lying. And when this guy gets involved, then you know that there's an ulterior motive behind it. Once you get Douglas Fisher, associate of Michael Montero and Steve Kim, writer for The Ring magazine, saying word. You see, these people, they have a problem with the demographic, but they can't help but use their lingo. Word. Monsters. I mean, you can just hear his voice when he says word. He's weird. You know, weird. Word. Monster's been smashing top fighters since he turned pro. That's a fucking lie. That's a fucking lie. You see, my problem is this. They would never ever. I like Inoue. I love him, as a matter of fact. I like him very much. But what Inoue got away with, okay? They would never ever let a fighter that comes from a so-called demographic get away with that shit. They would never let a fighter who comes from the so-called demographic get away with that shit. So once I saw this, I thought, okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to backtrack and make a video. But let's go back a bit. Seriously, we know that fight against Maloney from Australia is in lieu of a fight that's supposed to take place. You see, the thing with Naoya Inoue is that yes, he stops people like Payano. That's the one that comes to mind of late. Who else has he stopped? And obviously he had that big fight against Nonito Donaire. You know what I mean? Which was a challenging fight for him, you know? But let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. If that was a fighter that came from this so-called demographic, to have Nonito Donaire drop back to 118, then almost fight you to a standstill, even though you won, you wouldn't get no credit for that. Absolutely. They would pan you and slam you. They would say you're way, way, way overrated. You know what I mean? Let's not forget Guillermo Rigondeaux. Guillermo Rigondeaux beat Nonito Donaire. Then he went on something of a hiatus. He went up to 122. And in order to take part in the Muhammad Ali Trophy, he actually dropped back to 118. And he was advanced in age. Now, I'm not saying this to take away from Naoya Inoue's victory. These are just the facts. And I'm just applying the same standards that they would apply to any fighter that came from their so-called demographic. Okay? Because they love to talk about Floyd Mayweather cherry-picked and he did this and did that. And we'll get to that in a minute, because this is what pisses me off. This is double standard that pisses me off about these motherfuckers here. You know what I'm saying? You know? Let's see whether there's anything else worthwhile actually seeing in regards to the comments they say. What's it? They said, you're crazy. I know you love boxing, but you're crazy. That's like saying Damian Lillard ain't top 10. Who the fuck is Damian Lillard? Alright, so you know, you can see they're all coming out. Inoue, you see, this is why I say the bitch is in heat again. You can see they're attacking the black dude right now. You know what I mean? How dare he put Tank up there and not putting Naoya Inoue up there. But we'll talk about Naoya Inoue in a minute. And we'll talk about, this is a conversation that's been going on way before these Johnny Come Lately Naoya Inoue new fans came around. Alright? Came around to start talking about Naoya Inoue. Because, you know, we could go on to his box rec. Alright? I could try and find his box rec right now. I'm going to do that on my phone. Naoya Inoue. Nobody talks about his brother. He's got a brother, hasn't he? We've got on his box rec right now, and we can see 19-0, the so-called monsters that he's fought. So he's fought Emmanuel Rodriguez. Anybody know about Emmanuel Rodriguez? I didn't even know about Emmanuel Rodriguez until the WBSS out of Puerto Rico. Okay? Juan Carlos Payano. I think he's another Puerto Rican, isn't it? Jamie McDonald. Yon Boyo, I can't pronounce that name. Does anybody know anything about these fighters that Naoya Inoue, these monsters that Naoya Inoue fought? Go on his box rec. And I'm not doing this to tear the man down. I love the guy. Alright? But this is bullshit. This is bullshit. When you got somebody like Douglas Fisher up there talking about Naoya Inoue, and I'm highlighting this because let me tell you something. A British channel, long time ago, they highlighted this problem with Naoya Inoue. And you know, I was a Naoya Inoue fan, and I didn't want to entertain it as such because it is what it is. And somebody who was a, you know, I will call it rabid, but let's say an enthusiastic Naoya Inoue fan said that Naoya Inoue kept on moving up in weight classes because according to his contract he had to win. He kept on going the WBO route, by the way, just like the other guy Murata in Japan. That's what they do. All right, but at 115 especially, what he did there was unacceptable. And for people to say that, oh yeah, he's a monster, fair enough, but to say that he's been fighting monsters when you were in the class of what, you know, that class of 115 right there, and a lot of them are still there, and then you moved up, and then you get fortunate. People were saying like, okay, you know what, man, maybe you're gonna get to fight Tete. Tete gets stopped, and now you're on track to fight this other guy, and this is where it gets a bit complicated and a bit nefarious, and you can see where they're going with this shit and why they're pushing Naoya Inoue into traffic like they did Roman Gonzalez. You know what I mean? The bitch is in heat again. This is why they're trying to fucking fuck. They're gonna try and fuck this guy up because this is what they do, and they do it rather well. All right, but let's go back. You know what I'm saying? It's just me because you're being challenged on your point of view, and how dare you? You know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking to myself, you know, Caleb Truex and all these people, on what basis would you say that Naoya Inoue has been fighting monsters? Okay, he didn't even fight monsters in his division. That's the problem. And I gotta say, he's on track to fight one monster, but we didn't even know about that guy prior to this. And I feel that for certain individuals who've decided to put Naoya Inoue at number 2 over Terence Crawford, which doesn't make sense to me. Okay, this guy suddenly appears in America, and just like that, it gets fast-tracked, just like they fast-tracked Lomachenko to number 2 pound for pound, just like they fast-tracked Roman Gonzalez. You've got to say there's something here that doesn't make a great deal of sense. Anybody but black. I'm beginning to think this is a situation with Ring fucking magazine. Anybody but the black guy. You know what I mean? You get fast-tracked. So he says like, so because you're sold means I have to be. I acknowledge he's a beast, but not my top 10. But my top 10 I'm happy with. So we talked about that. So let's go back to the main subject. Let's go back to what Michael Montero put up, and let's talk about Naoya Inoue proper. Lopez jumps into the pound for pound list just above their beloved Lomachenko. Gennady Golovkin is still in the top 10 for what? What has Gennady Golovkin done to keep him in the top 10 pound for pound and not drop to at least behind Betibiev or even behind Lomachenko? Well, he is behind Lomachenko, or behind, who's this? Is that Estrada? Yeah, behind Estrada. Does he even have a belt right now? This one's got a belt. This one's got a belt. This one's got a belt. This one's, well, he hasn't got a belt right now because he's moving up to the heavyweight division, but he's an undisputed unified champion. This one's got 2 belts. This one is unified, well, sort of quasi undisputed champion. This one just lost his belt. Hold the Ring magazine belt. I'm not sure. Did Gennady Golovkin ever hold the Ring magazine belt? I'm pretty certain they forced it on him. I'm pretty certain they gave him like 4. You know what I'm saying? Just for being Gennady Golovkin. And you know, Michael Montero's a fanboy. Estrada's got belt. Alright? Which he won off, is that Cesar Sororisa, yeah? And of course, Betibiev is a unified champion. So why the fuck is Gennady Golovkin still there? Almost as a staple fighter that must be on top 10 pound for pound. Why? Because you know, Gennady Golovkin actually did win against, you know, he did win against Canelo Alvarez. You know what I mean? You could just head Douglas Fisher, but let's get into it. Let's talk about Naoya Inoue specifically. Now, Naoya Inoue was part of that Superfly class and fought none of the fighters. And I'm saying, okay, that the reason why they're pushing this guy up to number 2 behind Saul Canelo Alvarez as a buffer between him and Terence Crawford is because it's just a case of anybody but the black guy. How the fuck are you gonna put Naoya Inoue up as number 2 pound for pound when he didn't fight Estrada, he didn't fight Kudras, he didn't fight Sesikatsu Rongvisai, he didn't fight Roman Gonzalez, he didn't fight Ankayas. Alright? He moved up to 118. And now he's probably gonna fight some guy called Maloney out of Australia in lieu of a fight that's being planned between him and John Riel Casimero, who surprisingly took out Tete from South Africa. Now here's the thing. I say it's a win-win for these type of people because John Riel Casimero comes from the Philippines like Manny Pacquiao, who they idolize. They absolutely idolize Manny Pacquiao. And John Riel is an interesting person. He's got power, you know what I mean? He's a very strong person, you know, interesting character. I don't know whether that's all for real, whether it's on some shit. And he's saying that he's a real monster. But it's a win-win for these motherfuckers because at the end of the day, you see, if he beats Naoya Inoue, I bet you any money they're gonna throw him in at number 2. They're gonna throw Casimero. They're gonna throw Casimero in at number 2. But what they're doing with Naoya Inoue right here, right now, is what they did to Roman Gonzalez. They're pushing him in front of traffic, like they did with Roman. They're gonna blow smoke up his ass, pushing him in front of traffic. Oh, you number 1 pound for pound, blah 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 blah. Roman Gonzalez wasn't even comfortable with that shit because he knew he was a fucking bench warmer for the guy they really wanted there, but unfortunately he lost to Saul Canelo Alvarez. So they're doing the same shit. The bitch is in heat again. They're doing the same shit to Naoya Inoue. They're gonna sully this guy and make people dislike him because of the way they're promoting him right now. There's no way he should be at number 2. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Because imagine if that was a black fighter who didn't fight all those people in his division. Didn't fight all those people in his division, whether you've won the WBSS or not. As I said, you can go back and look at the situation, the circumstances surrounding the win against Nonito Donaire. Okay? Nonito Donaire had a big knockout in the competition. I've forgotten against whom, to be honest with you. Well, a big win. Was it a knockout or a big win? I can't remember. But Nonito Donaire surprised quite a few people in that competition. You know what I'm saying? And he was brought in because somebody else dropped out. He was a substitute. Okay? He wasn't even really selected. It wasn't like the first call. It's just that somebody else dropped out. And then Nonito Donaire moved into position to take his place. That's one reason, that one problem I have with Guillermo Rigondeaux is that he didn't show the kind of courage that Nonito Donaire showed in going into that competition because he didn't want to drop in weight from 122 to 118. But you're a small guy anyway. But then again, he's old, so it is what it is. It is what it is. And chances were he was going to take another loss in a tournament. So there you go. He'll go on his record. So he didn't want it. And maybe he just wasn't financially rewarding enough for him to do it. I don't know. But that being said, I'm saying that these people are setting Naoya Inoue up. This is what they do. They're going to set him up. Chances are it's going to be a tough fight against Casimero. But they don't care. Because Casimero is the type of guy, isn't he? He's Filipino, reminiscent of Pacquiao. Watch should that fight get made. The comparisons to the great Manny Pacquiao are going to be endless, especially from people like Michael Montero, Steve Kim, and Derek Fisher. But as I say, my problem is that you can do whatever you like, but why is it okay for you to promote and elevate Naoya Inoue this much when you would never ever allow that for anybody else. He didn't fight not one of those big wigs in 115 did he fight. And I like the guy. But he didn't fight none of them. He didn't fight any of them. Their fight, he didn't fight Sessikatsu Rongvisai. Big fight that would have been. He didn't fight Ramon Gonzalez, Estrada. They fought each other. But you move up to 118. Tete gets knocked out by Casimero, and even that fight is not taking place yet. You're going to fight Maloney first. And you know the way things are going right now, that could fucking go. It go pear-shaped. It go pear-shaped, and people aren't gonna sympathize too much for Naoya Inoue because of people like Michael Montero. They always put these people in the crosshairs for their own benefit, and it's all about just keeping this guy, the black guy who might be way up there, away from the top spot. That's all it is, because it doesn't make sense to me. Saul Canelo Alvarez, fair enough, he's your boy, you know. Golden Boy owns Ring Magazine. You're gonna do what you're gonna do. It's garbage in my opinion. It's garbage in my opinion. But you never had a problem putting Lomachenko in front of Saul Canelo Alvarez prior to Lomachenko getting beaten. Now you can root Saul Canelo Alvarez there. You can root him there, and then have Naoya Inoue. I mean, man, that doesn't make sense to me, but it is what it is. And then, listen, every argument I made, all right, is based upon. I hate people throw the word facts around. Facts. Nah, it's based upon the data that you see. If you see anything wrong, then tell me. What monsters? Go onto his page. Go onto his box rec and tell me what monsters you see there. Who are these so-called monsters that Naoya Inoue supposedly fought that warrants him being number 2 pound for pound? Emmanuel Rodriguez, Juan Carlos Payano, Jamie McDonald, Jan Boyer, Antonio Nieves. All these people, by the way. Antonio Nieves was 17-1. Ricardo Rodriguez was 16-3. Coel Kono was 32-9. But let's get towards the end. He's 19-0, and just about every fight he's had is a knockout, apart from Nonito Donaire. But I suppose it's that same thing you get with Deontay Wilder, isn't it? Knockout. But who you knocking out? And I actually like him. I think he's got technique. He's beautiful to watch. I like him. He takes the sport of boxing seriously. But he's a Japanese fighter. And they always fall short when it really comes down to it. When it really, really comes down to it, Japanese fighter is going to be a Japanese fighter. They're just not strong enough. It is what it is. Okay? We can celebrate him for what he is. We can call him a monster. Hey, but monster against who? And you put me number 2 pound. That's some bullshit. And I think it's politically motivated. That's all I'm saying. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.